I studied finance and accounting at the University of Cape Town.
Right.
And a few months in, I started applying to ALU.
Okay.
Somebody just told me about this new university that was
Yeah.
for Africa's next generation of leaders and
Right.
like aspiring
Yeah.
entrepreneurs.
I know. So I went to ALA, so I
Yeah.
know. You get sold on the mission, and then it's like, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was like, oh wow, this is so cool. And it was like, it's not just about the education, it's about like
Right.
the leadership and the journey.
For sure.
Um, and I think for me, I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly what I need right now.
Hmm.
Because I'd always dreamt of going to UCT, but when I was
Okay.
actually there, it felt like I just felt a bit underwhelmed.
Right.
Um, and so I was like, maybe this is an environment that will push me
Right.
and change me.
Right.
So then I transferred after 1 year.
Hmm.
And I think like I faced a lot of criticism when
That
I
was
made that
it.
decision
Okay.
because all my UCT friends were like, this is the best university in Africa. Like,
Yeah.
why are you leaving?
Right.
ALU is a scam. Like, who has a
Right.
university in Mauritius? Like, this is like you are being paid, you're
Yeah.
making a mistake, we don't
Wow.
support your decision,
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
but I mean, I did it anyway.
Okay.
Um, and I think that because of like having to go against all that criticism from the moment I
Right.
got to ALU, I just had this mindset of, anything that I want to try to
Hmm.
be, like anything that I aspire to be, I'm going to try to be it right now.
Right.
Um, and so I would just be like, hey, what have I always wanted to do? I loved fashion growing up, and I was like, I want to host a fashion show. So then I hosted a
Okay.
fashion show at
Oh,
ALU, and I
interesting.
started the arts community, Arts at
Interesting.
ALU, and we
Yeah.
hosted festivals and this and that.
Right. Right.
Um, and it kind of just like it went from there. When it came to internship season,
Hmm.
I told our career development manager, well, I want to be an entrepreneur, so
Yeah.
like where should I intern that will set me up? And they were like, you should do consulting. And I was like, I don't know
Mm.
what consulting is, but okay.
Okay.
And then I did my first internship at Bain and Company, and
Cool.
it was really really difficult.
I can imagine, right? Yeah.
And after I did that, I was like, wow, well that was so difficult. But I was in my home country, so what can I do
Hmm.
next year that will challenge me?
Right.
And I was like, okay, let me try go to a different continent, so
Mm.
that I'm challenged, like I'm in a new space.
Right. Right.
So the next year, I did an internship in Japan, in Tokyo,
Oh, interesting.
yeah,
Yeah.
with an NGO.
Yeah. That must have been some experience, right? Like,
Honestly, it was like best time. I had
right.
such a good
Yeah.
time.
Cool.
And then Bain had told me to come back the following year, but I still felt like I think I watched the movie The Intern,
Oh, okay.
the
Yeah.
internship of
Yeah.
like the Google internship, and I was like, this is so
Yeah.
cool. I
Looks
want to
amazing.
intern at
Yeah.
Google.
Yeah.
And then I was like, cool, let me try intern at Google. And like,
Okay.
I hustled my way. I didn't know anyone that worked there. I didn't know like anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I ended up getting a chance to intern at Google.
Nice.
So I did that in the Dublin office.
Hmm.
And then I went back to Bain again, like directly after that.
Hmm.
Um, and then yeah, the year after that, I was kind of all interned out.
Okay. You sort of just capped. It's like, I'm
Yeah,
done. It's a wrap.
yeah. So I did
Okay.
some other like fun experiences.
Hmm.
Yeah, after that, I made the decision to go work at Google full time as a
Right.
product marketer. And then after about 1.5 years, I
Hmm.
quit
Interesting.
to do my master's, which I
Hmm.
just finished in July. Um,
Congrats.
Thank
Congrats.
you.
Yeah.
And since then, I've been working on my startup and some of my other business ventures full time.
Mm. Awesome. I mean, that is quite a journey, absolutely, and very, very interesting things that you've been working on for sure. So my next question for you is, what has been one pivotal moment in your life that has shaped your career? And the follow-up question is, what has been your greatest achievement in your career so far?
So I think, as I alluded to, my decision to go to ALU and actually following up on
Hmm.
that was a huge pivotal moment for me.
Right.
I get asked all the time until today why I left UCT, Africa's #1 university.
Not
Um,
anymore. I mean,
I mean, and I always just say that if I stayed at UCT, I would be a chartered accountant at Ernst & Young right now. And
Mm,
not that there's anything wrong with that, but I
right.
think I would have been doing it out of not knowing like what other
Mm,
possibilities there are, and
right.
what other options I could pursue that align better with who I am and what I want to be.
Right. Makes a
Yeah.
lot of sense. And it's just going, it's definitely relating to like the first conversation we're having just around, exposure, right? It's like such a fundamental thing because it's
Yeah.
only once you're like out of like your usual environment, that's when you get to realize what's actually possible out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting for sure. Um, I'm curious, like what is okay, leaving Google, what is that like? I'm sure you must have got a lot of feedback
Yeah.
from it.
Yes, I surely did. I always knew I was going to leave Google from the time that I joined, from when I was even applying.
Okay.
I always saw my time at Google as a bridge, um, as a way to, gain experience, validate
Mm,
myself, gain some sort of respect in the industry.
right.
Um, so when I left Google, I think it helped a lot that I was leaving to do my master's.
Okay,
I think
right.
it would have been different if I was leaving to do my startup directly,
Yeah.
because yeah, doing a master's is a lot more socially
Yeah,
acceptable.
right. For
So it
sure.
was just like, okay, cool, you go do your master's program and that China thing. Like at the time, I was
Yeah.
supposed to go to China, so it was like, yeah, everyone at Google is very kind about it and very
Okay.
nice about it. Um, yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. So it doesn't seem like there wasn't as much like friction in terms of like just the transition because it was, as you said, more socially acceptable
Yeah,
to
I mean,
leave.
there was a lot of friction, kind of externally, but I
Okay.
think I just blocked it out.
Right.
A lot of people being like, why would you leave a job at Google?
Yeah.
How does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like,
Yeah. Just the pressure from
yeah,
yeah.
it was like, but I haven't really paid much attention to those comments.
Yeah.
Usually like
Yeah.
aunties, family, friends,
Of course, right.
people on Instagram. So it's
Yeah,
like, thank you
yeah.
for your feedback.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day. Mm. Okay, okay, cool. So my next question for you is, what is the biggest challenge you've ever had in your life, and how did you overcome it?
I've had many challenges.
Okay, naturally, right?
Naturally. I always like to take up a challenge.
Okay.
So again, naturally, it follows that the challenges that I take up get bigger as I
Mm-hmm.
move on in life.
Right,
So the
right.
biggest challenge that I have encountered is the one that I am going through right now,
Right.
which is transitioning from being used to existing and thriving within an already established
Right.
organization,
Mm-hmm.
company, like in the corporate, just having to meet targets and,
Right, right.
get good performance reviews,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
transitioning from that to trying to build my own company and
Right.
establish my own company culture. Yeah, and do something that honestly has been very difficult and
Yeah.
challenging, but very rewarding.
Very rewarding. Yeah. No, I can imagine it because like you go from a space where there's a lot of certainty and now it's just complete uncertainty, right?
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, I'm more or less in a similar boat, working at a startup and trying to also build my own business, like this
Yeah.
media company and whatnot. And it's just like, I like it because every day is sort of exciting.
Yeah.
Every day is a new challenge. Every day
Yeah.
is there's always something to do and always something to work on. You never get bogged down by like the mundane tasks of like day to day work, but um, it's definitely fun. That's the thing. It's definitely
Yeah,
fun to some
yeah,
degree.
it's fun, and it's a huge change, like when I worked at Google and people would say, "Oh, what do you do?" And I'd say, "Oh, I work in marketing," and they'd say, "Where?" And I'd say, "At Google." It would be like, "Oh, okay," like no further questions. That's that.
Yeah.
But when you tell somebody that like, "Oh, I'm working on my own company, I'm working on my startup," they have so many questions for you. Like all of a sudden,
Right.
everybody is a business expert.
They all have advice, right? They
Everybody has
all have the
advice,
two
and they're
cents to
so
tell you.
concerned about
That's
everything to do with your business.
hilarious. That is so funny. Yeah.
So I've actually changed to telling people that I work at a tech company, and I just don't mention that I own the
That you
tech
own the
company
tech.
because then I get many, like, much less questions, and that's
Yeah, yeah.
wonderful.
I'm like, I actually take the same. Funny enough, I take the same approach. Like people ask
Yeah,
me, "What do you do?" I'm like, "Oh, I work in tech and media." That's literally what I say,
yeah,
and
yeah.
just keep it like that.
Just
And if they ask further, then the next phase, I'm like, "Oh, I help this company sort of build their commercial and product infrastructure,
Mhm.
and then I run a media company, and then it stops there.
Yeah.
And then only then, like for those really, really curious
Really,
people,
really curious,
that's what they ask for.
yeah.
It's like, all right, okay, now I'll just tell you everything at this point because like you've made the investment to actually ask this much.
Yeah.
So, but most of the time, it's just like the first response. Everyone's just like, oh, okay, cool, moving on.
Yeah, moving on.
Yeah, yeah. All right. So my next question for you is, what advice would you give someone who's trying to do the same things as you?
Okay. I feel like I've been saying this for years,
Okay.
but like